Tonight, the new bipartisan push on Capitol Hill sanctioning Turkey for the attacks on Syrian Kurds. And as the incursion in northern Syria continues, what Vice President Pence and Secretary Pompeo's official visit in the region could mean for the end of Turkey's military invasion. Plus, the life and legacy of a powerful lawmaker in the United States House of Representatives. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
A ceasefire in Syria. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Turkey says it's ending the attacks in northern Syria, at least temporarily, for the next 5 days.
That's the agreement between Vice President Pence, Secretary Pompeo, and Turkish President Erdogan.
The Turkish side will pause Operation Peace Spring in order to allow for the withdrawal of YPG forces from the safe zone for 120 hours. And Operation Peace Spring will be halted entirely on completion of the withdrawal.
Those YPG forces are the Syrian Kurds who've been facing Turkish attacks over the last week. The fighting comes after President Trump announced that he's removing all American troops stationed in Syria.
And that decision coming with a lot of backlash. Politicians, former military officials, evangelical leaders, and others all criticizing the move. One major concern is the possible resurgence of ISIS.
And part of today's agreement working to make sure that won't happen.
In addition to the settlement today with the ceasefire, Turkey and the United States mutually committed to the defeat ISIS activities in northeast Syria. This will also include an agreement renewed today to coordinate efforts on detention facilities and internally displaced persons in formerly ISIS-controlled areas.
Chris Mitchell, CBN's Middle East Bureau Chief, has been closely following the developments in northern Syria, and he joins us now from Jerusalem. Chris, top view, how successful do you think this deal struck between the United States and Turkey is on the ceasefire?
Well, it really depends on who you're asking, John. I think from Turkey's point of view, they probably see it as an advantage. If the, as they say, as Vice President Pence said, the YPG withdraws from a 30-mile buffer zone. From the U.S. Point of view, President Trump calls this a great victory for civilization. And I'm sure from the U.S. point of view, anytime you can get a ceasefire, it certainly looks good on the surface. But I think there are some parties here that will have their own say, as it were, as after this announcement by Vice President Pence and the Turkish government.
Chris, why do you think Turkey finally agreed to the deal? What brought them around?
Well, I think one thing that brought them around was the threat of sanctions, what impact it would have on the Turkish economy. I'm sure that Erdogan has really been getting a lot of from world leaders all over that, to stop this invasion. And I think he might feel like he's got something out of this, this buffer zone that might be vacated, or at least that is the hope by the Syrian Democratic Forces. But as I said, we'll see what happens with them.
Chris, Vice President Pence said the deal serves the long-term interests of Turkey and our American allies, the Kurds. Any sense of how the Kurds might feel about the deal?
Well, I just got off the phone with a representative of the Syrian Democratic Forces, involving the Kurdish people as well. And I think they're very upset with this deal, and I'll tell you why. They feel like this is a victory for Turkey, that it is, if the Syrian Democratic Forces vacate from this 30-mile zone, it will really, bottom line, would be ethnic cleansing. There's about 100,000 Christians there, and if Turkey would come in with jihadist forces, as we have reported before, the army of Mohammed, there's a very definite possibility of ethnic cleansing from about 100,000 Christians, and that's where they are going to make their point. They haven't come out with an official announcement yet, but I think they want Christians in the United States to know what may happen to up to 100,000 Christians right along this border, the Turkish-Syrian border, and that's what they're looking to. And also, the other players in this, John and Jenna, are Russia and Syria. They're right there as well. I don't think they've weighed in yet necessarily on this ceasefire and this vacating of this 30-mile border zone. I don't think the Russians or the Syrian regime are going to accept this. So I think it's still uncertain of how this is going to play on the ground. But bottom line, I think from this Syrian Democratic Force representative, they really want Christians in the United States to know what impact this is going to have to Christians there on the ground.
All right, Chris Mitchell in Jerusalem, thank you.
Great to be with you.
CBN contributor Chuck Holton is on the ground in Syria. We spoke to him by phone right after the ceasefire was announced. He says while people on the ground are cautiously hopeful, the 5-day ceasefire may still create a worsening humanitarian crisis.
This will do nothing to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in this area, and indeed it will actually make it worse because we're going to have more IDPs stressing the economy of Al-Hasaka, which is kind of where everybody is congregating now. And they just literally, I mean, they don't have water in that town. The people are sleeping in all the schools in town. They're just packed with people. So the kids aren't going to school. The schools don't have electricity. They don't have running water. We were at one of them today and saw it. And they're having to truck in water for the people. And they're running out. I mean, they're running out of clean water. They're running out of food. They have no medicines. And I mean, it's going to be a much bigger humanitarian crisis if that problem isn't addressed. And what we need is more than a 120-hour ceasefire. We need a no-fly zone over this area so that ambulances will be able to go in there and get people out without getting blown up.
More than 160,000 people in Syria have been trying to flee the recent Turkish attacks.
And let's bring in David Brody, CBN's chief political analyst. David, this administration, it has taken quite a beating over this past week or so for this decision. Does this announcement today help to stop some of the attacks?
No, I don't think it will. As a matter of fact, look, let's just go 30,000-foot view here. No one is going to die, most likely, in these next 120 hours as a ceasefire. That's great news. Everything else is disastrous for this administration. I mean, think about what just happened. The Kurds are the big losers here. I mean, the Kurds were in that area of this safe zone. Now, get out is basically, so they lose their homeland, number one. Turkey is now in control of the safe zone, or will be in control of the safe zone. Turkey doesn't get any sanctions on them at all. So, you know, this is a ceasefire, so that's always great news when no one's dying.
Right.
But beyond that, this is a major victory for Turkey. The Kurds should, as we heard Chris say earlier, are going to be upset and already it's reverberating here in America.
David, Mike Pence said that this is a solution that will save lives. Some may wonder, why wasn't this deal worked out before America's Syria withdrawal? Wouldn't that not have saved even more lives?
Well, I guess technically you can say that. You know, the White House is making the case that, look, Erdogan was going to go in regardless. So the way they see it is that they were just saving American bloodshed at that point. In other words, Turkey was going to do what Turkey was going to do, that they couldn't stop it. So it wasn't Trump giving the green light. It was never Trump giving the green light. It was Erdogan saying, I have the green light and I'm going forward.
Yesterday, President Trump said the Turks and the Kurds were fighting over land that the U.S. had no business meddling with. He said that there probably will likely never be peace over there, a lot of unrest. David, why the change of heart now?
Well, I'm not sure if it's really a change of heart. I mean, I think ultimately, you know, this is something the Trump administration never really wanted to do in the first place. And I don't know. To me, it just seems like there's such a bigger issue here that Trump is always about the land and Turks and Kurds and, you know, endless wars. But he's really never gotten the other part of this, the Iranian stronghold that could happen in Syria, and Israel could be threatened because of all of this. That has never been part of the equation, at least publicly, by this president. And so, you know, I think there's a lot more danger ahead.
All right, David, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, ahead of today's announcement, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have been speaking out. If the plan for temporary peace does fall apart, Congress is preparing to increase sanctions against Turkey. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us with more on that. Abigail?
That's right, Jenna. Congress is having a rare kumbaya moment here on the Hill this week, with Republicans and Democrats coming together to rebuke President Trump over his decision to withdraw U.S. troops out of northern Syria. Now, time will tell if this new ceasefire holds, but if it doesn't, Congress is prepared to respond with new, much stronger sanctions. The street fighting and Turkish airstrikes ahead of Thursday's ceasefire is not only leading to a humanitarian crisis.
People are literally dying as we speak.
It's also bringing lawmakers together to impose Iran-like sanctions if Turkish forces continue.
We don't agree on a lot of things, but we do agree. We do agree. This is a precarious moment for our country and our role in the world.
Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal said it's up to Congress to save Kurdish Christians.
We will be held responsible, and rightly so, by history for the potential genocide that will occur in that region if we fail to act. History will haunt us.
The yeas are 354. The nays are 60.
House Democrats and Republicans voted to condemn the president's decision, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell called the resolution inadequate.
It is curiously silent on the issue of whether to actually sustain a U.S. military presence in Syria.
What we witnessed on the part of the president was a meltdown.
After a contentious White House meeting with top Democrats, the president is crediting his decision for the ceasefire.
It had to be an unconventional solution.
Consider our efforts in Congress being an ally.
After a public spat between the president and one of his closest advisors, Senator Lindsey Graham said Congress will plan for sanctions.
Whether it results in peace, I don't know, but I think this may be a breakthrough we can build upon. But I promise you this, 5 days from now, I will feel just as committed to making sure Turkey is out of Syria as I am today.
Now, Senator Graham says he's spoken to the president since the ceasefire, and they appear to have smoothed things over, adding that he stands ready and willing to build on this breakthrough. Back to you, John and Jenna.
The president in Texas for a campaign rally. When we come back, we talk with the Trump campaign on how the impeachment inquiry is affecting his re-election bid.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch. Thanks for joining us. Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today.
Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Welcome back. And now to the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. American ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland, was on Capitol Hill today, testifying before a closed-door session about his work with the Trump administration and Ukraine. According to prepared remarks released in advance, Sondland seemingly distanced himself from the president, saying he was disappointed Mr. Trump involved his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, with Ukraine. Meanwhile, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said today she doesn't know where the impeachment inquiry will lead, but that she understands it's an issue that causes division.
None of us came to Congress to impeach a president. That's not what we come here to do. And any such actions are to be taken very solemnly, seriously, in my view, prayerfully. It isn't a unifying thing for the country to have to go through this.
Pelosi gave no timeline on how long the inquiry may go on.
And here now, Mark Lauder, Director of Strategic Communications for the Trump 2020 re-election campaign. Mark, good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You know, President Trump, he's in Dallas tonight. Today, you retweeted a photo of the crowd gathering outside. How much is this impeachment inquiry affecting the campaign?
Well, it's infecting it in a good way, but it's sad that we have to go through that. I don't think anybody would want to see political benefit gained from it, but if the Democrats insist on going off this cliff, then obviously I think the American people are rightfully going to react. So we have seen tens of thousands of new people reach out to our campaign to donate. It has been a huge, we raised $13 million in just the days after Nancy Pelosi made her single-handed decree that impeachment was now on the table. So if this is where the Democrats want to go, I know Trump supporters are going to be out there showing their support for the president. You see it tonight in the lines that have already gathered hours in advance of the rally in Dallas.
Mark, Gordon Sondland, a major Trump donor turned diplomat on the Hill today, not doing the president seemingly any favors. Same story with former White House advisor Fiona Hill yesterday. You say that it's helped the campaign, but is there a negative impact that you might be feeling with the impeachment inquiry as well?
Well, I think the negative is that they're putting the country through this process for no good reason. I mean, there has been clearly no quid pro quo. The president was absolutely on that transcript of the call. There was no quid pro quo. The president of the Ukraine said many times he felt no pressure. He didn't even know that aid was being withheld. And I think we've got to remember here that despite all of the Democrat distractions, that it is absolutely appropriate for the president of the United States to ask a foreign country to look into potential impropriety, especially as it related to a sitting vice president of the United States whose son was getting paid $50,000 a month. This is not forward-looking. These were actions that were actually taken while he was in office as vice president, and I think it's a responsibility of the president to look into this matter and make sure that American interests were upheld throughout that time.
But Mark, you certainly, as the campaign, would rather spend time talking about the president's record on things like the economy rather than talking about the impeachment inquiry and possible corruption charges.
Well, we of course would rather always talk about the economy and also highlight the areas where the Democrats have just gone off this radical cliff. But if this is where the Democrats are taking us, then you can be sure that the president's campaign is going to be geared up as we would on any issue. And we're going to defend the president. We're going to echo the message of the White House. We're going to make sure that the president's supporters know the truth out there, because they're not going to get it from most of the mainstream media.
There's been a lot of backlash against the president for his decision regarding Syria and pulling troops out of the northern part of that country. How concerned is the campaign? What could the political implications be here?
Well, obviously, anytime we're dealing with national security issues or foreign policy decisions, those need to be made by the people inside the White House. They're not made with political ramifications in line. But in this case, I do think it's also important to remember that this was a president who was very clear in 2016 that he wanted to pull American troops out of harm's way. And in the case of Syria, we went in there with a mission to eliminate the geographical caliphate that ISIS had established. And now that that mission has been done, our troops were sitting there basically to play police force between factions that have been warring for centuries. And in this case, the president said it was not in our best interest to have American bloodshed, possibly American troops in harm's way. We set the guardrails. You saw it with the vice president, the Secretary of State today, that they've agreed to a ceasefire. We now have those guardrails in place. And as long as as long as Turkey acts within those expectations, then everyone can have a resolution, I think, that will bring peace to the region and get U.S. forces out of that area.
All right. Mark Lauder, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Mark.
Coming up, Capitol Hill loses a longtime House member. A look back on the life and legacy of Congressman Elijah Cummings.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Tonight, many around the country are mourning the unexpected loss of a respected voice on Capitol Hill.
CBN senior news correspondent Eric Phillips looks at the life and legacy of Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings, who passed away early this morning.
The 13-term congressman will be remembered for his many contributions to this country and especially to his native city of Baltimore. Many may recall the 4 words he often uttered during trying times. We're better than this. Tributes came pouring in across Washington upon word that the 68-year-old congressman and civil rights leader had earned his wings.
Today, the Capitol will lower its flags to mark this significant loss and remember a life well lived.
In the Congress, Elijah was considered a North Star.
That moral compass was shaped in part by Cummings' parents, who were sharecroppers and Pentecostal ministers.
When we're dancing with the angels, the question will be asked, in 2019, what did we do to make sure we kept our democracy intact?
He represented Maryland's 7th District, which covered most of Baltimore, where he was a lifelong resident. A Howard University graduate, Cummings went on to earn a law degree at University of Maryland. He practiced law for nearly 2 decades before entering Congress in 1996. He was most recently chairing the powerful House Oversight and Reform Committee, which has extensive investigatory power. It led to a bumping of heads with the president, who, as subject of one of the investigations, lashed out. On this day, however, a much different message from the president saying, "My warmest condolences to the family and many friends of Congressman Elijah Cummings. I got to see firsthand the strength, passion, and wisdom of this highly respected political leader." That respect was earned. A few years ago, when riots broke out after Freddie Gray, a black man, died in Baltimore police custody, Cummings walked the streets, calling for not only justice, but peace, always staying true to his personal motto.
We're better than that.
Cummings leaves behind a wife and 3 children, his wife saying he worked until the very end. Words backed up by Steny Hoyer, who says Cummings was on a conference call as late as Sunday night, urging his colleagues to, quote, proceed with the heavy duties before them. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Chief Political Analyst David Brody is back with us again. David, Eric just mentioned that Twitter war of words between the president and Elijah Cummings. Today, the president offering this anecdote saying that he had a respected voice that'll be hard, if not impossible, to replace. Talk a little bit about Cummings' legacy here in Washington and how he was viewed by members on both sides of the aisle.
Both sides actually really liked him a lot. As a matter of fact, one of his closest friends on Capitol Hill, you ready for this? Mark Meadows. That's right, Mark Meadows from the House Freedom Caucus. So, but look, I mean, this was a guy that was old school. And when I mean old school, he had two preachers as a father, or excuse me, his father and mother were preachers. He didn't learn to dance till he was 16 years old when he went to prom, because dancing was a sin in his household. So this is kind of how he was. And for 30 plus years, he was in the inner city suburbs of Baltimore, same house all the time.
David, just a few seconds here, but he was a central figure in the investigations into President Trump. Will his death affect that?
No, I don't think so. Carolyn Maloney will take over right now, liberal from New York, shockingly liberal from New York City, as part of the Oversight Committee. She'll be the chair for now. They'll pick someone in the future, but either way, they're going to go forward full tilt on Donald Trump.
All right. David, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, David. Now free from a Turkish prison, Pastor Andrew Brunson reflects back on the lowest points when he was held captive. That story when we come back.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Well, finally tonight, Pastor Andrew Brunson is revealing more about his time in a Turkish prison.
For more than 2 years, Brunson was imprisoned because of his faith. During that time, he faced more trials than he could have imagined, even to the point of contemplating suicide.
When I went into prison, I thought that I would feel strength and joy and even in difficulty, the presence of God. And I didn't. And I was really surprised at this. And I really broke.
Pastor Brunson was released a year ago this week. To learn more about what he experienced during his time in Turkish prison and his new book that chronicles that time, you can visit our website, cbnnews.com.
What a remarkable man with a remarkable story.
Incredible testimony.
Yeah.
Wow.
And someone that we can all kind of look up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that does it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.